It's the worst of the CBC for January 4th, 2020, the show where I watch the CBC so you don't have to. And, I mean, we're at this point where the CBC is just in mourning over the loss of the world's most infamous terrorist at this point. Yesterday, they were in this sort of false balance where they were kind of giving both sides, but just sort of omitting things, saying like 70% of the truth. All that pretext has gone out the window. They are showing only it's so obvious. They're showing the mourners in Iraq, and these are the people mourning Soleimani in Iraq. Every one of them is a Hezbollah flag. I see like 50,000 Hezbollah flags. Okay, the Hezbollah flag, it's yellow. It has like the buildings. It has like a fist holding an AK-47. You see that? That's an actual Hezbollah terrorist flag. Okay, so it's not said, oh, this is Hezbollah. Also, Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. Like, okay. So they're fully in mourning, and I think the best use of time, because this is like the number one story everyone's saying right now, is for me to sort of go over a lot of the common propaganda-esque or fake talking points that you can use to sort of debunk a lot of the nonsense going around. So the first we're going to start with is like congressional authority and the whole Ilhan Omar. Like, I'm going to hold President Trump accountable, and what the Democrats are rallying. He needed congressional authority. And you can go with about all the Obama drone strikes without congressional authority, blah, blah, blah. But, okay. The Quds Force, which Soleimani was the head of. The IRGC's Quds Force. I'm going to link the articles I've written on the thing so you can, in the description, so you can get a lot more info if you want. All you need to know is the Quds Force is considered a terrorist organization in both the U.S. and Canada. Even under Justin Trudeau's regime, they had to admit that the Quds Force is a terrorist organization. Okay. So Soleimani was the head of a terrorist organization. He was not in Iran. He was in Iraq in an active war zone. So he was drone striked in Iraq, which means Trump already had congressional authority to do this. Okay, so he actually technically had it. Okay, this is the head of a terrorist organization, and he's in a war zone. Right, and they hit him on the move. Like, do you really think that Trump would have to call everyone into Congress, like take a whole day to decide? Okay, we have a 20-minute window to hit Soleimani. Let's take a day to talk to Nancy Pelosi, and then have her like Ilhan Omar blab to the press that we're not going to kill Soleimani, and then he's gone. Like, okay, that's just silly. So from a tactical standpoint, it's silly, but also from a legal standpoint, he already had congressional authority. Okay, what the media is not reporting is the Quds Force in both the U.S. and Canada. So both the U.S. and Canadian media should be reporting this. They are not saying this. The Quds Force is a listed terrorist organization. Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, a listed terrorist organization. Qassem Soleimani was his boss. Okay, this was the boss of the boss. Like, this is a high-ranking terrorist. He was the head of multiple terrorist networks. He connected terrorists and militias and these fake, human rights NGOs that are regime-centered. Like, he was the head of it all. Okay, Zarif helps, but Soleimani was the terrorist head of it. Zarif is the propaganda. He's like Goebbels. Soleimani is, sort of like Eichmann, Himmler rolled into one, and maybe with some general knowledge, whereas Goebbels would be Zarif. Now, the other thing that people are going to say is like the World War III memes, all right? Oh, people saying that the assassination of one guy isn't going to lead to a World War I. This isn't actually an assassination, right? He's in a war zone. He's the head of an official terrorist group. He's conducting a war. He's a military target. Like, this is like saying that that in the middle of a battle, at the Battle of the Bulge, if you're an American soldier and you shot an anti-tank missile at a tank, that was an assassination. Like, no. Now, the comparison to Franz Ferdinand. This is historically illiterate to the max. This is maximum historical illiteracy masquerading as people pretending to know something about history. And I find it comical. Okay. Franz Ferdinand was an archduke. He was an anti-war figure. So the assassination of Franz Ferdinand by the Serbian sort of nationalists, this triggered a complex system of alliances. And the whole world was sort of being prepped for World War I, right? And Franz Ferdinand was one of the people trying to stop World War I. He was a big anti-war voice. Soleimani was a big war voice. Again, Soleimani and Franz Ferdinand are two very opposite figures in history. One was conducting a war, one was trying to stop a war. So assassinating the guy trying to stop a war created war. Assassinating the guy conducting all the wars leads to less war. But also, in World War I, there's a complex system of alliance where Britain and France are actually allied for once, where it sort of triggered all these different scenarios where Germany was allied with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and because the Austro-Hungarian Empire was going to go to war with Serbia, but Serbia was allied with Russia, it meant that they would have to go to allied with Russia, and Russia had an alliance with France, and because France, like the complex system of alliance sort of triggered this, right? The alliance system was actually new and sort of tentative, and it was it was regionally divided, or not regionally divided, let's say, because NATO was all sort of in a clump. Can you imagine if NATO was broken up and there was different alliances, like if France and England, countries bordering each other with other countries on the other border, were all part of different alliance systems. So it was complicated. And two, there was an active arms race at the time. Like one of the reasons World War I kicked off in earnest is because of the naval arms race, and navies are really expensive, especially, and every time they'd make a new navy ship, the previous naval ships would become obsolete and they'd have to build a new navy. So this continuous arms race meant if they were going to use it, they kind of had to go to war to sort of destroy the naval ships so they wouldn't need to build more navy ships. It was a very complex system of alliance. There was a massive arms race, and an anti-war figure got assassinated, not a guy conducting current war. So the Franz Ferdinand example is it's intelligence. It's historical illiteracy masquerading as intelligence. So that's what you need to know there. And again, Ilhan Omar is just lying at your teeth. And what I've enjoyed is just look at who's sad this happened. Ilhan Omar is angry. Bernie Sanders is angry. Jeremy Corbyn is angry. People like Sean King, Linda Sarsour is angry. Faraz Hussein al-Najmi, the chief anti-Semites in Canada, are unhappy. We have literal terrorist supporters unhappy. Guys, all the worst people in the world are sad right now. It means something good has happened. And as you can see in the pieces I'm going to link to below, World War III is further away right now than it was last week. Everyone calm down. And the Washington Post, the CBC, all these experts, they don't know what they're talking about, okay? So calm down, everyone. Everything's okay. On the Rosemary Barden scale, of course, it's a 11 out of 10 because they're mourning a terrorist. It's literal support for terrorism right now. I can't believe it. So 11 out of 10 on the Rosemary Barden scale. I will see everyone tomorrow.